is the day, August the occasion, and conclave the celebration. To strive to set a benchmark, to strive to excel in our field, to strive to be the best.
We are privileged to have here with us the chief guest for the occasion, Shri Rakesh Sethi, Chairman and Managing Director of Allahabad Bank.
Now we welcome you, sir, with the humble offering of a bouquet.
We now present before you the Sai Choir.
आरती करो तुम्हारी ओ साईं, तुम मेरे गुरु साईं। तू ही सुनाता है अपना गीत, शायर बनकर हमें, शायर बनकर हमें। सद्गुरु मेरा मीत रे, मुझ में प्रीत जगाए, प्रीत जगाए, प्रीत जगाए।
Today's children, you are fortunate to have the chief guest, Shri Rakesh Sethi, a person whom I have known for the last 15 to 20 years, a person with the utmost humility, honesty and integrity, a person who is liked by the entire banking industry, a person who has understood the value of banking and concentrates on the human value of banking. Whenever he has spoken or we have discussed on anything, he focuses on the human value component of banking. Because a good banker always looks at the human value. Dale Carnegie has said that he could become a millionaire and he could create 32 billionaires in his industry because he could identify good human resource for his industry. This is still barren. Ms. Sethi certainly is going to tell you how our economy is moving, because the true reflection of the country's economy is a bank, because the economy propels with the infusion of blood from the banking sector. So as a CMD, he is the doctor to tell you not only what the economy is now and also the remedies of how to improve the economy, because a banker truly understands. A banker is not a politician to show that the country that we are one of the best economies of the world, because he is a practical banker. I had requested him for a long time to come and talk to our children, and I was waiting for an opportunity. And when I said that there is a Commerce Conclave where the children of Sai International School and about 25-30 institutions of our state will be assembled here, he instantly agreed and he said that I would like to talk to the children. I like to talk to children about our country, about our economy. We are indebted to you, sir, for having agreed to be here. It's a rare honor and opportunity. Children, I will give you 10 minutes after his speech to ask any question that you have to make it more interactive. With these words, once again, I congratulate each of the visiting students, welcome each of these visiting students, and also wish the organizers of Sai International School and Sai International College of Commerce to have organized this Commerce Conclave in a much better and bigger way. Wish you all the best, and I wish we'll have very good deliberations in the day during the course of this conference. Thank you. God bless you.
A very good morning to all of you. I don't get the good morning back at all. It's all reserved for Mr. Sahu. Good morning. That's reassuring. It's both a privilege and a pleasure to be here today. A privilege because one feels proud of what an old friend of mine and a colleague on the board of Allahabad Bank has created. Really proud on seeing this, beyond my wildest imagination. Coming to pleasure, the pleasure is always there when you meet younger people, because not so young people like me feel younger once we are with all of you. Another disclaimer I should make. It can only be Mr. Sahu who can do this. Get a most inappropriate person to talk to you on Make in India. I belong to a service industry which doesn't produce a damn thing, right? And if the original definition of banking is to be defined, it is 363. This was coined in England. That is, you pick up money from poor depositors at 3%, lend it to suckers who can take it at 6%, and go and play golf at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that was 363. He said, make in India, converting India into a super economy. And I said, oh no, I'll have to do homework on this. Because wake me up at any time in the night and ask me to speak on banking, and I can do that in my sleep. But nowadays, like he correctly said, nowadays all over the neighborhood, people just keep shouting at the bankers saying that we are not paying you tomorrow morning. So hardly I'm able to keep myself awake nowadays. So I have, since yesterday night, done some homework. Now when you don't prepare too well and you succeed a speaker like Mr. Sahu, so you're going to have trouble. But then I can only blame myself for having asked for it. So here it is, like it or not, you don't have an alternative. You can get back at me at the 10 minutes that you have at me, rather than the half an hour or 20 minutes that I would have at you. Coming to the world-class thing that he's created, the school. And the way he spoke. There was recently an article about him in the Economic Times, where he was nominated as one of the pride of Odisha. And there in inverted commas was his quote, which always will stay with me till I die. He said, about SAI school and the college consequently, that I gave up my profession to pursue my passion. And this is what passion has achieved. I think you are all proud to be studying in a school like this. And a great round of applause for him. So being dumb that I am, bankers are pretty dumb. Just tell them you have to do this and they'll do that. So he said, you have to speak on Make in India, making India into a super economy, and I stuck to it. Had I known that, like he alluded, that I could have spoken about banking, I could have made life much more easier for myself and maybe interesting for some of you here. But then, we'll talk a little about Make in India. It's very relevant to all of you, and as we go along, I give you the right to stop if you feel that it's really over the top and going beyond all of you. At the outset, what's Make in India? It's an initiative announced by the Prime Minister on 15th of August last year. It said that domestic manufacturing will be the core and central tenet of his foreign investment policy, so that will put job creation on top of the objectives in attracting investments into our country. being a developing economy, we depend a lot on FDI, as it is called, foreign direct investment, and FII, foreign institutional investments, to spur industrializations into our country. He also went ahead and envisaged a focus on 25 sectors in the economy, like automobiles, chemicals, IT, pharma, textiles, ports, aviation, leather, tourism, hospitality, wellness, aviation, railways, design engineering, renewal of energy, mining, biotech, electronics, defense. That these would be the sectors that they would really focus on to see that foreign investment comes into these sectors so that jobs get created and consequent to that, wealth gets created. So fine, what do you think? I was wondering that what prompted him to say this almost a year ago on Independence Day. And for that, I took a walk down memory lane or history lane. You are all aware that the Industrial Revolution of the 18th century completely changed the way that production was done. The innovations associated with this revolution changed the technique where it replaced hands with tools and machines. Now, once this was done, it gave a lot of learning to the rest of the world. I'll broadly list down 4 learnings that the Industrial Revolution of the 18th century told us. The first one was, once you replace the hand with the machine, it was much more efficient. So consequently, you made huge profits, which you could reinvest in industrializing further, which means that the industry became self-sustaining. The second thing you learned was all those nations which industrialized became strong both in terms of power and both in terms of wealth. The third learning you had was it created great jobs. And the fourth learning was that 80% of trade at that time and till today continues to be in merchandise, which means that the entire economy of the world depends on trade of goods and not services. Services contribute just 20% of world trade even today. So to sum up, what was the one final learning out of this? That is, the health of an economy is critically dependent on the health of the manufacturing sector. If this is what history tells us, let's match history with demographics of India. What are demographics? Demographics, the age profile, what's happening. So there's an amazing statistic which says that as on today, there are 252 million people in India between the age group of 10 to 19. Right? Match that with certain other figures. As of today, 51% of our population is dependent on agriculture, which contributes about 18% to the GDP. Service sector, which employs about 20 to 30%, contributes more than 60% of the total contribution to GDP. Manufacturing, which is now treated as residual, has been contributing traditionally about 20% to GDP, 18 to be exact, and this hasn't grown. If you compare that with our immediate neighbor China, in China, 34% of the GDP comes from industry. So that shows the scope, and that explains why the development in a country is much more rapid, much more stark to see when it depends on manufacturing rather than any other sector to grow. Then there are a few projections. As of today, 31% of India is urbanized. It is envisaged that 42% by the year 2030 would be urbanized. Again, consider that the latest initiative of the government that they would have 100 more smart cities. So maybe this number would go up. Another interesting statistics would be that we would be one of the few countries which would have the youngest population in the world. While everybody has grown rich before they grew old, we would be one of the countries which would be watching this phenomena act out, where everybody in Japan and US and Europe has absolutely a population which is more old than young. And the more the older people, they require more number of younger people to support them. I'm sure once you read this, it will be more clear. For paucity of time, I won't want to get into it. But then, what do all these statistics show us? They show us that there's a world of opportunity waiting at your feet. Because all you guys, boys and girls between 10 and 19, are going to decide what the future of this country is going to be. So what do you have to do as young children that you are today? Seize the opportunity, right? But then how? By being responsible. And then responsible to whom? Responsible to yourselves. For the simple reason that all of us are good at something or the other. Right? But we don't know that. For somebody who's very good or has a technical mind, he won't know it that he is capable of innovation, he is capable of becoming a scientist, till he actually attends a science seminar. For somebody who's destined to be a great lawyer, unless he gets into the debating team, he doesn't know that what he's made of. So your responsibility today is to search out what you are good at. And education does exactly that. So it's your responsibility to yourself and to the nation to see what you're good at, develop it, and then that would be the way in which you would contribute to yourself and to the country in the future. And then, what do you need to do this, right? You could be studying in the best school, you could be having the most best teachers, dedicated teachers, you would have supportive parents, but then if you don't take responsibility of doing your assignments, completing your homework, studying well, working on what you're good at, you would not make the cut. Having said that, once you've decided what you are good at, a banker and me cannot but help telling you how a bank can help you make dreams. If you take most of the names that are today large industrialists, the Adanis, the Reliance's growth is directly traced to the support that Syndicate Bank gave the group in the initial years of its existence. Adani was absolutely a small-time entrepreneur before the banking sector helped him out. Mrs. Kiran Majumdar, the promoter of Biocon, went to ICICI Bank when Mr. Wagul was the chairman with a small discovery of a molecule and wanted a huge amount in those days of 80 lakhs to just make it a commercial proposition. He took the call not out of the banking arm of ICICI Bank, but out of the venture arm of that, because there was no prior case of this industry having been there. So the point is, create your dreams today. Tomorrow when you need them to be encashed, please come to a bank. Same applies for leadership. The banks, the Indian banking sector have played a great role in the development of the economy. We will continue to do so, and we, especially at Allahabad Bank, have a separate cell where we take care of budding entrepreneurs who come just with an idea and absolutely no money in their pocket. We have a tie-up with the SIDBI, the Small Industries Development Bank of India, which would give you the seed capital to start. That would be supplemented by the loan that we would give you. And once the commercial viability of that project is established, then automatically the scale-up financing automatically happens. With that, this is all I know about Make in India. I know I made a bad effort, but then you'll have to live with it. At my age, you just can't hope to make one great assignment in, one night. It requires time. The brain gets slower. So now is your opportunity. I think I have completed earlier than what you had expected. So leave it to you. You can ask me anything. If it is banking, trust me, you'll get an answer. If you ask me about anything else, I'll try my best. Thank you very much, and it's wonderful being here. Thank you.
So now the floor is open. So who is taking the first question? Yeah, there. Sivangi. Okay.
Good morning, the Dice chairs.
Morning, better.
Sir, I'm Shivangi Dal from SAI International College of Commerce. Sir, now, in present in India, stable government and the strong power is helping the country towards its betterment. But sir, the investment in India is aplenty. It isn't sufficient. We have a boon that the unexpected boon that the petroleum crude has declined. But sir, where is the money to revive the investment cycle in India?
But I think Make in India is all about that. Any developing economy has to depend on foreign direct investment or foreign institutional investment to spur its growth. For the simple reason that the level of wealth creation that would require an economy to kickstart is definitely not there with the private sector. The largest spender in a government economy is the government. And the government again depends on the amount of taxes that it has done. Or the second alternative is deficit financing, where you deficit finance to kickstart the economy. That's called pump priming. So I think the government is planning to do that. They've already spent 25% of their total budget in the first 3 months of this year. So hopefully the government, along with the FDI and the FII, which is anyway flooding in, should set the economy on the right track. I think our expectations about the economy, it's not, an overnight thing that you can just snap a finger and then turn it around. It requires time. And I think over the past 1 year, a lot of bottlenecks that were there for the growth of the economy, like the overactive judiciary, the coal mine issue, the iron ore embargo, all that is slowly resolving itself out. I think we are on the right track. These are the two things that come to my mind. But what the Prime Minister or the government expects is, the debt part of any developmental initiative is always available. Like banks always are surplus with money to lend for a bankable and a commercially viable project. The trouble is the equity that has to come in from the promoter's side. If you trace all the problems that have been going on in the Indian economy over the past 2-3 years, it's only because they could not meet their part of the equity. Now, once foreign investment comes in, it sort of surrogates the requirement of Indian domestic equity. And I guess that solves the problem.
My name is Gaurav. I'm from SAI National School, sir. Sir, when we are talking about Make in India, a very major part is the foreign direct investments. So I'd like to know about what is the role of foreign direct investments in the banking sector and the manufacturing sector as a whole.
But I don't see any other limitation across any sector. It's just absolutely free for all.
Government, so many schemes have been taken up, but to what extent are they being implemented? And even if they're being implemented, every year the government continues to take more refugees from Bangladesh and many other countries. So how is it actually helping to get rid of poverty in India?
This is a question of Bangladesh that problems will come. See, if you had an ideal situation, Ram Rajya, there would be no poverty. I guess all these things, don't worry too much about them. They'll solve themselves out. As long as we start doing well as a country, what is famously called the trickle-down effect will take place, and it will lift the people at the bottom of the pyramid automatically. But if you want everybody to become as good as all of us sitting here today, that will take some time.
In today's world, we face new challenges like global warming and climate change. In this context, is an economy heavily dependent on manufacturing sustainable in the long run?
Carbon credits is one way of doing it. So there are ways as such. Like I told you that any development has a price to pay. A trade-off has to be done. And what we are essentially now doing in some of these industries like wellness, tourism, hospitality, the carbon emission or the carbon print would hardly be anything. So I think due care is being taken, and the pollution control authorities of this country are very active, hyperactive to say the least. I'm sure all that is being taken care of.
You very well know the way he has ignited your minds and kindled the spark within. So for that, I think we should offer. This is normally people offer. So what we offer in SAI International School is called Clap of Happiness. It's simple. It's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So all together, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Any make in India, a product or a service, has to be backed by finance. And there's nobody else better equipped than a commerce literate person to look after finance, because a number of initiatives have either been successful or not successful depending on how good their finances were managed. So along with the raw materials, the human resources, finance forms a very important part which is critical to make or break a Make in India initiative. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. And what do you think about the growth story of India?
The demographics show that by 2030 we would have almost 60% of our population below 35 years of age, right? Our only issue is that we need to skill them before they reach an employable age. That reasonable initiatives have already been started. The Skill India, the Digital India, the Make in India, the ITI is getting revamped. So I think we are going to be the next large superpower, maybe as early as 10 years from today.
And sir, lastly, any tips that you would like to share with the commerce students so that they can success in their life?
Work hard, work hard, work hard. There's no substitute for work hard.
Thank you, sir.